Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we're doing a box office preview for this upcoming weekend, which is going to see Final Destination Bloodlines. That's right, another Final Destination movie coming out. Expected to have a pretty good opening, especially since the film only cost about $50 million according to reports. Expected to open to around 37 to even some estimates going upwards into the $40 million range, which again, for a movie of its price, a movie of its cost, is actually pretty good. Now, we'll actually see what the full box office is this coming Sunday, what kind of international presence this film is going to have. My guess is that this is mostly going to be a domestic, strong or domestic heavy presence, but we'll have to wait and see for that. But also, Thunderbolts right now is projected to drop off quite a bit, dropping around 46 and in some estimates over 50% in its third week of release. Now, remember, it actually had a decent hold for an MCU movie, right? Some people don't quite understand the comparison there of saying, hey, the film was dropping pretty high in the 50% range. The big issue, though, is that when it comes to MCU films, they almost always have massive drops in that range, right? With some of the better films, like that of the Guardians of the Galaxy era, dropping in the 40% range, but actually closer to 50%. And this one obviously dropping around 56% instead, which is on the higher end of the low estimate, but still, nonetheless, right now is tracking a bit better in its daily performance, even up against films like Captain America: Brave New World. The big question is going to be, of course, is it going to be able to leg out in comparison to that film and make more than it? Right now, it seems, based off of word of mouth, based on the fact that this film is definitely better received than a lot of the previous MCU fare, that it probably has a good chance of doing just that, and you could actually even see this film do better globally than that of Captain America: Brave New World, but still, jury is out on exactly how much it will make. And also talking about Sinners, because Sinners is just continuing to have amazing drops, amazing holds, only dropping now 26%, at least according to the estimates. So let's just go ahead and dive into those numbers here, right? So right now, Box Office Theory is projecting that Final Destination Bloodlines will have around a $37.3 million opening weekend. According to the overall tracking, it says here that the Box Office Theory forecast range is 36 to 42.5, whereas the traditional tracking has it around $35 million. And so, again, pretty respectable opening for a $50 million made movie. Going over to Box Office Report, they have the film a little bit around 48.5, so definitely a lot higher, actually, in their projections, so they're being a lot more bullish here, $48.5 million. And it's also a very similar story for the Box Office Pro estimate, because they're actually having it around 48 as a minimum to upwards of $60 million. So this is one of those rare times you see a pretty large discrepancy between the estimates from Box Office Theory and Box Office Report, respectively. And so it'll be interesting to see, does it come in on that lower end or does it come in on that higher end? It definitely seems like the word of mouth on this film so far seems pretty positive. Not a whole lot of reviews over on critic lists right now, but the ones that have come in, there's one bogus rating. It sounds like someone who really doesn't like the fact of how the movie goes about its killings. That seems to be what most other people seem to really enjoy about the film, are the deaths that happen in the movie. So it sounds like it's going to be one of those movies that's going to be a love or hate. It's like, okay, do you like that kind of movie or do you not like that kind of movie? Right now, again, seems like a lot of people do enjoy it. Gary Banjo Sandwich Worthington, a friend of the channel, I had to dislike his review because he gave it 100%. I mean, I'm sorry, like 100% score for a modern film especially? Come on, guys. 100%? Really? A perfect movie? I don't think so. But still, shout out to him nonetheless. And again, most excellent rad scores for most of the other ones that have come out, with only that one bogus score. And again, the biggest criticism that he has is that the deaths seem very unrealistic. But then again, you're going into a Final Destination movie. I don't really think you're trying to figure out or trying to go in there for a more realistic approach to death. It's kind of supposed to be a little bit more fantastical, a bit more ridiculous. It seems like most audiences know exactly what it is that they're going into for these movies, and that's why, again, if it were me, I would probably go more in line with what Box Office Pro and Box Office Report are saying, where they think closer to $48 to $60 million. And again, only time will tell. We'll see what the Thursday numbers end up being once those get reported today. But as of right now, things are actually looking pretty good for that movie. Thunderbolts, right? This is a film that had a 56% drop in week 2. Now, whereas that was a decent hold in comparison to most other MCU movies, right? More of a middle of the pack type number, right? It was initially being reported the film could have had, a near, best case scenario for an MCU movie, right? Dropping closer to 50%, but actually ended up dropping a bit higher, right? The estimates initially had it at 55% when those Sunday numbers came in, and then it bumped up to 56%. So that's actually pretty bad, right? That, just go ahead and make it very clear here, right? Those aren't great numbers. For an MCU film, though, it's middle of the pack in many ways. But now it's expected to drop another 46% in week 3. Now, this is towards the higher end, right? This means that audience that may have been held over from week 2 is no longer coming back. And so it seems like because of how small the opening weekend was for this movie, that there just wasn't a whole lot of people to promote it. There weren't a whole lot of people to get the word out on it. And so even though the word of mouth was really positive for the most part, because the number was already so small, you can only have so much, right? It's not like this movie is getting to the point where a film like Sinners, for instance, which had a decent opening weekend, but because the word of mouth was so palpable, it was actually able to bring so many more people in. Thunderbolts is just not having that. And I think a big part of that is because of the MCU fatigue, but even more so because of the bad movie MCU fatigue, right? People don't want to spend money on movies that aren't good. And ultimately, when it comes to Thunderbolts, I'm sorry, the film is not good. Just because it's a mediocre MCU movie does not make it a good MCU movie. And I think a lot of people are trying to, split the baby, as it were, in their minds by saying, well, it's not woke, or it doesn't perceive to be woke, or there aren't a whole lot of woke elements into it, and so therefore it must be good, or hey, it's not as bad as some of these other films that have come out, not a lot of messaging in there, and so therefore it's not as bad, even though I do think that there is messaging in the movie, especially since it's a bunch of bad dads, once again, being presented in modern, Hollywood fashion. But that all being said, the numbers are being very clear here, right? 46% drop here in week 3 is not a good number. That being said, it is still looking to be a bit better than what we saw with Captain America Brave New World. And so I think that is going to be something for us to follow, right? Exactly how much more is it going to be able to make up? I think it was around $13 million that was made by Captain America Brave New World in its third weekend. This film right now projected gets around 15 to 17 $1 million in its third weekend, so it's definitely going to be catching up to the domestic total, that advantage that Captain America Brave New World had in its domestic opening versus the much lower opening of Thunderbolts. But it's going to be interesting to see exactly how much it's able to, down the line, track, and whether it's going to be able to pull ahead at any point. Right now, I would say, based off of the tracking, based off of where most films end their entire run, the film's either going to come in just underneath $400 million in a worst case scenario. We're not seeing that play out, at least at this point, or in a more best case scenario, it will actually go ahead and double its first 2 weeks and actually get into that $450 million range or so. That's where it seems like that's likely going to be happening. Or rather, sorry, it was actually going to get to the $500 million range in a best case scenario. Right now, I think it's probably going to be in the middle ground there, right? $400 to $450 million by the end of its run. Again, it's going to have to leg out there, though. It's not going to get there very, very quickly, but it'll be interesting to see nonetheless where it actually ends up. What's also interesting is that you have a very strong chance, especially if you look at these comparisons here, of Thunderbolts not getting the same or even passing the total domestic run of Sinners. So it just tells you the weakness of the MCU in North America, most especially at this point. So again, be interesting to see the tracking between those two films, because Sinners, again, has had some amazing holds, some amazing things. And keep in mind, right, when you have a comparison here, right, there's actually a chance that Sinners could actually end up beating Thunderbolts this weekend, right? Now, again, tracking right now, according to these estimates, is not putting that there, but still 15.7 according to Box Office Report versus 15 for Sinners. And then over here, you have 48 to 60 million for Bloodlines. The number 2 spot has 14 to 18 million dollars, with Sinners getting 10 to 14. So is there a possibility there, even in their charting, that you could see end up seeing Sinners get in the number 2 spot? What we can know for sure is, based off of history, based off of where these films have been performing, Sinners will absolutely be Thunderbolts next weekend. Right? So this is, again, because Sinners has been dropping consistently in this 20% range, whereas Thunderbolts has been dropping, right, 56%, now dropping projected 46%, and likely will drop another 35+% next weekend. And so that's going to be enough for Sinners to finally overtake it. And so Thunderbolts is never going to catch up to the total domestic of Sinners. It's just, again, that much better of a film in its performance, at least at the box office being concerned. So again, big win for Sinners in this capacity. The Minecraft movie is also still here, 5.8 million, 24% hold here. So again, still doing very, very well, but again, it's going to be quite a legged journey for it to eventually get to that projected billion-dollar box office, which again is still possible, right? It's definitely still a possibility, but it's going to be a lot harder at this point for it to do it. Let's go over to the charts, okay, because we love charts here on OMB Reviews. Some of these charts are still in the process of updating, and obviously I need to add Final Destination into the chart here. But Thunderbolts, right, $280 million. This film is still, right, not looking to be a huge money maker, all right? So it's still about $148 million in the red. This is because not only do we have the budget of $180 million, but actually recent reporting says that the marketing was probably closer to $100 million, which means the total cost was around $280 million. Now, again, I still question whether or not that is an accurate budget, because we all know Disney always overspends on MCU films, right? All of the reporting from the United Kingdom proved this point, that they were always underestimating their budgets by over $100 million in every single case. So as you can see right now, the best case scenario for the film is that it actually makes profit, but it's not tracking that way, right? Right now, it's tracking much more in that average territory. And so that would still put it to around $465 million, which would be a lot better than the 415 made by Captain America Brave New World, but would not be enough for it to actually break even or make any profit. So as of right now, jury's still out on exactly where this film will end up financially, but right now, not looking all that great. We go ahead and look to the box office right now for Sinners, $292 million as of the last report, right? This film finally hit profit as of this past weekend, but look at here. This film is about to basically hit the official point of doubling its first 2 weeks. Compared to its opening weekend, it's now 4.6 times its opening weekend, and then compared to its second weekend, 1.8. So definitely towards the higher end of box office. So probably going to be one of the better box office performances of the weekend. But really, it's because of that budget, right? That's really cutting into those net profits ultimately. And so again, this film could have been a much bigger box office hit in the comparison to its budget had they just spent a little bit less money on the film. People don't like when I bring that up, but hey, I'm all about numbers here and all about the facts ultimately. And hey, the film's doing really, really well, much better than anyone could have anticipated. And hey, no one's going to take that victory away from it. But those are the numbers currently as they stand. What are y'all's thoughts? Do you think that we're going to see some big numbers here from Final Destination? Again, seems very likely for the film to get off to a very, very good start. And also, what do you think it's going to do compared to Thunderbolts? And Thunderbolts, do you think this film is going to, be able to catch up to Captain America: Brave New World? I meant this one point on X/Twitter earlier, that if you compare the first 2 weekends, right, you have $271 million globally for Thunderbolts. Compare that to Captain America: Brave New World was at $289, so about an $18 million difference there. So the fact that there was only $18 million separating these two, and yet, we know exactly what happened with the film with Captain America: Brave New World, right? Some people said, oh, there's no way that it's going to catch Brave New World. There's no way it's going to cross $400 million at the box office. Well, I'm saying only $18 million separation. The film is tracking significantly better in its daily performance versus that of Captain America: Brave New World. Guys, just go ahead and face reality. The film is, right now, likely going to get to $400 million, if not more, and also likely will pass the total of Brave New World, and again, get to $450-ish million. Again, we'll have to still wait and see. Jury's still out on that, but is definitely still a possibility. Very much a realistic scenario based on the math. So let me know your thoughts about that as well in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button. Make sure you also smash the rumble button as well. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day. A blessed Friday. And as always, God bless. Now for a huge special shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members, starting off first with my people on Patreon, Father Luca Illick and Miss Martin Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Martin Muses. Also to my Subscribe Star people, Matt317. Check out his Twitch channel by the same name, Matt317. Also a huge shout out to my newest YouTube member, Raichu. And lastly to my YouTube member, Mr. Roy, shout out to you, good sir. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, check out the top link in the video description below where you get access to that. Also, you get access to a plethora of other things. You get your name listed at the end of every live stream and video, like you saw in those names that came up before this video started, and also access to a giveaways channel that I host over on the Discord server where I give away 4Ks, Steelbooks, Blu-rays, all kinds of stuff. So check that out if you're interested in that. Also, I have an exclusive podcast that I hold at least once a month, and it's always a good time, and you get extra bonus content with that also. So if any of that sounds interesting, again, check out that top link in the video description below. You guys are all amazing, and beautiful people, have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.